What's up, everyone? In today's episode, I'm going to give you my watch list for Monday morning and the game plan for the week ahead. We ended up starting March with a little bit of a slower week, at least relative to the momentum that we were seeing in most of January and February. Now, there was one slower week in January, and then after that, we went right back into hot momentum, which I expect will more or less be the case. We are seeing a lot of volatility in the market. We're seeing a lot of volume in the market. And what that tells me, there's a lot of traders out there that are sitting on the sidelines this past week, kind of waiting for something they can really sink their teeth into. Now, of course, we did get some action on GV, both on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, which ended up kind of making the week in a lot of ways because, the stock ended up going up 650% over the course of 3 days. Having said that, it wasn't the easiest to trade, in part because it started at a fairly low price. And so you probably had some swing traders who accumulated very large positions, holding for several days. They created resistance as it started to squeeze higher. And then, of course, you had that rejection on Thursday, some bag holders as it came back up on Friday. And now at this point, if you're asking, should I trade it again on Monday? My opinion is no. I think the chart's at this point kind of broken because of just these repeated drops and then the pop back up and the drop. And the volume is waning. So declining volume as it moves higher, that's a divergence where we're sort of positioning probably for a more extended reversal. But having said that, it was great that we did at least have a stock that went up 650%, and I'm looking forward to seeing what we have on the scanners on Monday morning. Now, you may observe that I am in a different location. I'm not in my office this week. I will be on my traveling trading station right here. I'm in Mexico and taking a break from, being in the cold in New England. Now, this time of year in New England, I'm just sort of making my maple syrup, doing the sugaring, spending a lot of time outside, which has been nice. But I'm going to be down here in Mexico this week, and this will be my office. So I've got my laptop right here, front and center. And then I've got a USB monitor on the right and a USB monitor on the left, and then another USB monitor on the right. So that's more or less all I need. This all fits in my carry-on suitcase. It's very easy to travel with. And then, of course, I bring my camera with me and the mic and stuff like that so I can be streaming for all of our members at Warrior Trading and, of course, uploading my recaps on YouTube. So there won't be really any change in my routine. It's just a change in location, change in scenery, and certainly change in weather. It's very warm here, which is great. So let's go ahead and jump onto the screen share. I do have quite a bit that I want to go over for you guys here today. The first thing I'll say is that some of my biggest winners over the course of the last week have been trading micro pullbacks. So if we pull up GV from Friday, I'll just pull up the chart here on GV. Let's see. We'll go back here on this. I'm going to just zoom in here to when it first started to pop up. So my first entry on GV was right here at the very beginning of the move where it dipped down. So we got this squeeze up, then we got a little bit of a dip right here, and then a surge higher up to there and up to there. That micro pullback is actually on a 10-second time frame, and you don't even need the 10-second chart to be able to trade it. Really what you need is level 2. So what I'm going to do for you guys, first thing, is I'm going to put a link in the description, and I'll pin it to the top comment, where you can download my micro pullback strategy as a PDF. So you can print it out, you can put it around your desk, and when you see that pattern forming in real time on a stock that meets our 5 criteria of stock selection, meaning it's a stock that is priced between 2 and 20, is already up 10%, has a catalyst, has 5 times relative volume, and has a float of less than 10 million shares. I want you to use that PDF resource to help you identify that this is the pattern where I'm a buyer. I want you to practice it in a simulator, but I think you're going to be impressed. So you guys can download that PDF and you can implement it in your own trading and test it out and let me know in the comments what you think of it. So that's totally free. You guys can do that. Now, those of you guys that do want to watch over my shoulder this week while I'm trading, I will also have a link for the 2-week trial, which is 2 weeks for $20. And that'll give you access to the same software that I'm using right here, which is Day Trade Dash. So I'm actually going to click this little button here and tuck it in. Now, tomorrow morning, when I start streaming, you'll be able to open the small cap chat room right here. So you open the small cap chat room, and then when my broadcast begins, this is going to change from off to a red live button. It's going to say live, and then you click that to open my broadcast. So you guys can do that Monday morning. All right, so GV, as I was saying, it finished the week with just this kind of big pop because it had news at 8 a.m. Or no, it was 9 a.m. That they had received 12,000 new orders. So we had this pop right here up to $9. And then, it kind of sold off all the way back down to 630. So on the daily chart, when I look at the daily, essentially you just have multiple topping tail candles at this point, right? Topping tail on Thursday and another topping tail on Friday. So I think GV is going to be out of play for right now. I'm not interested in trying to squeeze more out of that one, so I think I'm going to leave it alone. However, if we pull up our scans here for top gainers after hours top gainers, you'll see ATCH is on the scan. Now, ATCH has a very low float of 618,000 shares. This is a stock that I think on the one hand, has the potential to make a move, but on the other hand, has tried a couple of times and keeps kind of rejecting. The most recent was this day back here on February 24th, where it put in a really nice move from $4 up to like $14, but then it's come all the way back down to $1.39. So sadly, this is the story of a stock that just continues to go lower. The company is forced to do reverse splits to keep the price above $1, and I'm worried that they're going to get delisted at a certain point because the exchange has changed the rules to prevent these back-to-back reverse splits. So I'm just worried that this stock is not going to be able to stay on the NASDAQ. So, on the one hand, it is the type of stock that could make a big move based on the float and the price. But since it recently made a big move and then pretty much, gave it all back, at this point, it's over, I think. Anything that we would trade would be the backside of the move. So now this is, however, what I'm looking for. Another one of these. And it's just going to have to be on a different stock. So a stock that suddenly pops up, pulls back, and then makes this awesome move like that. So the profile of the type of stocks most likely to do that are going to be very similar to ATCH. It's going to be probably priced between 2 and 20. It's already going to be up 10% on the day. It's going to have a float of certainly probably less than 1 million shares if we're looking for like a 300% intraday move. And it's going to have a news catalyst. It's going to have high relative volume. So from Friday, although ATCH popped up and is, kind of meets the profile because of its recent pop and rejection, it's not great. And I think this is also why it's so beneficial to be, ideally, if you can, in a community of traders that have quite a bit of experience. Because very quickly, someone can say, well, wait a second. You got this candle here. That's going to be a problem, right? Now, if it weren't for that candle, we'd be good, which is why on that day it went, because it had been selling off, then boom. But now because it just had that move, even though it's been selling off, this is going to screw that up. So that one's more or less out of play. Now, if we pull up our continuation scanner here, I like to look at this scanner just to get kind of a glimpse at some of the stocks that have been making big moves recently, and just to check to see if any of them are worth considering for being on the watch list for continuation. So PSTV, this one, a little lower price, currently $1.57, had this sort of multi-day squeeze up to 250 and then started stair-stepping back down. So in this area here, my feeling is like GV, if this comes out with breaking news, we might have something we can work with. But if it doesn't come out with fresh breaking news, I don't think that there's going to be anything to trade right now. So PSTV needs fresh news. 100 million shares of volume on Friday. It's very liquid. You can get in and out with huge positions if you want, but I want to trade something I have strong conviction in that it's going to go higher. GV, we already talked about that. ARBB, this one's a little too cheap for me at 93 cents. QMMM, $1.46, again cheaper. Now IBIO, this is $5.56, so it's the right price. The float on IBIO is 9 million shares. We look at the daily chart and you can see that's a stock that's kind of made this move up. It then pulled back, and look at this double top right there. Top and then top. So that's not ideal. And now it's pulling back. It's set up where if it has fresh news and the news is strong, and it could bust through that level, and then we're in really good shape for a move higher, but we need that fresh news catalyst. So POLA, this one, I've traded this one before, 1.4 million share float, but Polar Power. So this one's a little off the sector, or a little outside the sector that we've been seeing good momentum in. So engaged in selling direct current power systems. What? This is not, it's not it's not a biotech, obviously. It's not a Chinese company. So I just don't think it's in the right sector right now for what we should, really expect would of a big move. Now, I will say GV was also a little outside the sector of what's been working. That kind of surprised me. That was one of the reasons initially I was sort of like, no, I don't know if that's really going to work. Um, but, it obviously did. So, um, anyways, that's a little odd, but had that Chinese connection. CDXC, going just a little further down the scans here, just looking at some of the familiar names. I think that unfortunately, a number of these, YHC, that one popped up the other day. Below the 200 moving average there. SPHL, $4. ALLR. TNXP, this one popped up a little bit the other day. Looking at the 5-minute chart on it, you can see how we kind of got this rally higher all the way up to a high of 19 and then back down to 13. The problem with a stock like this is that at this price range, you're going to have bigger spreads. A small cap stock, 5 million share float at this price range is typically going to have 15, 25 cent spreads. That makes it hard to break the ice because next thing you know, you're getting in, you're down 25 cents on the bid. It drops a little bit, you're down 50 cents on the bid. You do that with 5,000 shares, you're down 2,500 in a second. You hold it a little longer, next thing you know, you're down a full dollar a share. So and are you really going to make $1 a share if it goes up? See, this is where the spread becomes a problem because it's going to have to go up $1.25 to capture $1 because of that spread. If you get in on the ask and then you sell on the bid, which on a thinly traded stock, you might not be able to sell on the ask. So that creates more risk, unfortunately. I don't think that this is one that I would go for. GRR is similar in that sense where sort of higher priced. It's been just moving higher from 6 all the way up to 24, pulling back, then up to 30, pulling back, then up to 44. But in this area, the spreads are like 50 cents to $1 a share. It's just not tradable. It's not something I could trust. So that one's no good. Now on Friday, we finished with ABLV being the leading gainer, but that was primarily a squeeze kind of going into the close and another Chinese company. I would say it's probably not likely that we'll see continuation on it, but it's not impossible. So I would keep that on watch as a maybe. The daily chart on this is sort of interesting in that the high is 650. So if we got over that level, we're at a blue sky, all-time highs, but I'm not sure if that's going to work. BTOG, not liking that chart. The way it pulled back, came back down. We call that kind of the head and shoulders pattern. So usually it's going to fade back down. DWTX, honestly, perfect price range, $6 a share. You could easily get 50, 60 cents a share out of it, which is nice for a profit. And the stops would probably be 5 to 10 cents, 15 cents. So you've got more like, that 3-to-1, 4-to-1 profit loss ratio. Very low float, nice volume. What's the catalyst? Not seeing one. Therapeutics company, so it's the right sector. And I think what probably happened on this, with this on Friday, is that sort of for lack of anything else to trade, all of a sudden it sort of pops up here at about 10 a.m. So, for whatever reason, this popped up. It could have been some Discord alert or something, for lack of anything sort of substantial from the company. Could have been an individual buyer who just said, I like this stock and I'm going to jump in. But it popped up, pulled back, pushed a little higher, pulled back, pushed higher again. And now, kind of dipping back down. High is $8. So back down to 692. It would be so much better if I had a fresh catalyst. We look at this on the daily chart, and you can see this is another one of those stocks that made a insane move here, but then gave it all back. So now bouncing through the 200 moving average and then back down, it needs news. So this is kind of the thing that I'm noticing right now, and this was sort of the case, this sort of whole last week is, we're seeing some stocks that are popping up, but I feel like we're seeing a lot of desperation and a lot of traps where people are eager to trade something, and so something starts moving and they jump in it very quickly. And that can work in a hotter market, but when it starts to get a little colder, it feels like long bias traders no longer have the upper hand. Shorts are a little stronger. And all of a sudden, we had a couple last week where it starts to pop up, and then next thing you know, there's a 50,000 share sell order right on the level 2. And everyone panics and sells, it drops. Now you've got a big red rejection candle, and the stock was never up, that much anyways, and it didn't have news. And so it doesn't go back to the high. It just keeps fading. And then just like that, you've taken a completely unnecessary loss and possibly a big loss. So I would urge patience this week. That's what paid me really well last week. And just to sort of check in, I'm sitting right now at $949,000 on the year. Accuracy has been almost 72%. But even better than that is my average winners are 1,800, which is fine, but my average losers are only 750. This is a really solid profit to loss ratio. Biggest loser, 10 grand. All right, that sucked. Biggest winner, 33,000. 3-to-1 profit loss ratio on the two most extreme trades. So, I've really been trying to stay disciplined with trading the best quality setups. And I am willing to sort of adjust the standard a little bit each day, but within reason. So January finished at 407,000. February finished at 497,000. March right now, I'm at 49,000 so far on the month. And I have a goal of 100,000 a week. So that'd be another $400,000 month. So I'm a little bit shy on that for the first week. Now, fortunately, I'm, big picture ahead of the goal on the year by over 100 grand. So, half of that sort of I'm digging into a little bit this week. So I'm still above goal, but it's coming down, and we'll see what we'll see what next week gives us. But what I recall from just January was how I had this one week, which was my slowest week of the whole year, where I made $34,000. Now that's not a bad week by any means, but just in context, it was my slowest week of the year. And then the next week made $165,000 right here, and it was only a 4-day week. It was like 20 grand, 41 grand, and then $81,000 on that Friday, the 24th. So boom, all of a sudden things were picking back up. The next week, another 120,000, and then we're going into February. First week of February, 180,000. And then of course there was a little bit of a slower week here, which was a short week. And this was a day where, I made $1,300. So it was like great, solid momentum, and then blah, nothing. And then the next week, kind of back at it. So I think it's important to be able to take your foot off the gas when it feels slow, and just know that we're in a market right now where there is enough momentum that it'll probably come back. It might take a couple of days, but the momentum is here. So it's just being patient and waiting for that next stock that really has a decent catalyst. And we'll probably, it's going to, sooner or later we'll get one, and we might get one very early this coming week. So that's kind of where I'm at, big picture. Just focusing on consistency. And, that's one of the things that you guys get to really enjoy when you're listening to my broadcast and you're tuning in, is I spend a lot of time talking myself out of trades, saying, nope, I don't like that. Nope, that's not going to work. And of course, there's some that I miss, but I talk myself out of a lot of low quality setups. And I hope that I'm a little bit of a voice of reason there, where I'm saying, listen, guys, this stock has no news. It doesn't make sense. I'm just going to wait. And look, if you want to trade it, do what you'd like. But, right now, sitting at nearly 72% accuracy, I feel like I'm in a place where I've gotten really refined. And when I see something that looks good, I'm in, and I'll size up and I'll be aggressive. But until I see both the stock and the setup, I just kind of keep myself on the sidelines. So it's kind of like, I've been, I've talked about this in other episodes, that I really like reading these stories, to my kids. So My Side of the Mountain and all the books in the Hatchet series, you kind of have this, there's this feeling of you have to pace yourself. And you've only got when these guys are out hunting in the stories, they've got like 3 arrows. And it's like, all right, I've got to wait for my shot. And it's close, but do I really want to lose an arrow on this one? I'm going to wait. Patience. And I think that there's a really nice lesson in there of patience paying off and having that discipline to wait. Because in trading, especially with commission-free trading, sometimes people feel like there's no cost. Just boom, 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 boom. I'll just take a million trades. But next thing you know, you're losing $5 there, $10 there, $30 there, $100 there. And all of a sudden, you've accumulated a red day. And it's like, man, maybe I should have just been a little more patient. Of course, you also have to be recognizing the market that you're in. And when we're in a really hot market, it is easier to get away with kind of jumping on everything. And it does feel like there's just a really strong tailwind to everything you might trade. But when it starts to cool down a little bit, that's when you need to pace yourself and take your foot off the gas. So I hope you guys have been able to do that. If not, all right, it is what it is, but you could start today, start tomorrow, right? Pace yourself, slow down a little bit, just do that kind of double check. Does the stock meet all 5 criteria of stock selection? And am I looking at a setup here that I can really sink my teeth into? So make sure you guys download the Micro Pullback Strategy PDF. I think you'll really enjoy that. Leave some comments if you do. And as always, if you want to do a 2-week trial for $20 here at Warrior Trading, we'd love to have you. So thank you guys for tuning in. I'll remind you, as always, trading is, of course, risky. My results aren't typical, so please take it slow. Manage your risk, and I will be live streaming at 7 a.m. Monday morning, and I'll be streaming all week. So looking forward to seeing you guys in the chat room. All right, that's it for me. I'll see you guys tomorrow morning.